Welcome to Chicago Bulls Chat with C-Red UK. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever or however you're listening, make sure to rate, review and subscribe. It helps us out and means you never miss another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave some comments for us to get back to. And for all the C-Red UK action, check out the Discord channel and across the socials. Now, over to your hosts, Matt Hearn and Neill Dunn.
Hello and welcome back to Chicago Bulls Chat, part of C-Red UK. I'm Matt and it is just me tonight. Neill is currently tied up with work and our schedule's just not sort of matching at the minute. Hence why Neill put a video out on his own last week and I'm doing this one now. Point of this one is just basically to cover everything sort of pre-draft, a few little bit of tidbits that have been dropping. And, well, quite a bit of Bulls news, to be fair. We just wanted to sort of stay up to date with it so that when we do one post-draft, we don't have to go over this sort of stuff again. So, first up, obviously, Neill, if you watched his video last week with regards to the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade, now I was going to jump on it with him. I was going to do one myself. The news dropped here at, I think it was 10 p.m.-ish Thursday night. I was just about to get in bed. I had a 4 a.m. start, so obviously that took me out of doing it then. I was going to do one on Friday, but got tied up with work, hence why Neill did one on his own. Obviously, I couldn't let it pass without having my say on it. Obviously, initial reaction to it was, same as everybody, wow, what the... and I let it sink in a little bit. Obviously, was just sat there waiting for the picks to come through as everybody else was, which they didn't. And then, yeah, you're kind of disappointed with that. And I think on the surface, it's definitely going to look like Bulls have lost the trade. And I get it. You know, obviously, we needed to get that draft compensation back, which we haven't done. You know, I did make a meme yesterday, Bulls trying to grab some draft picks and AK pulling them back. Obviously, AK doesn't see the draft picks as anything but adding them into trades to get off other players. Doesn't like acquiring them. I don't even think he really likes using them. I mean, in the 4 years now, he's had 2 first-round picks, P. Will, Dalen Terry. I'd say he's got a better record with his second-round picks. Obviously, if you go back to his Denver days and obviously Ayo in Chicago. So, yeah, once I'd got over that and I looked at the sort of player for player, I kind of like the trade, to be honest. I think it's set a bit of a direction now that we're going to get younger. And obviously it has led to a load of other rumours of other players not necessarily coming back. You know, and what sort of direction are the Bulls actually going to go with it? And there's obviously a lot of negativity around it. I mean, we've given up a hell of a player in Alex Caruso. You know, and there's a lot of negativity around Josh Giddey, who I'll speak about in a minute. And I get it, but how I look at it is, in 2 years' time, Josh Giddey is going to be 23, 24, coming to the peak of his career, and Caruso is going to be 32, 33, whatever age it is. And from what I've seen on Twitter, a lot of OKC fans like the trade for now, but they don't want to extend Caruso. And, you know, he's going to get decent money, and I can see why Bulls have moved off him. Yeah, ideally they should have done it sooner, but as me and Neill put out an episode a few weeks back called Love Hurts, regardless of what the Bulls did in this situation, fans were going to be upset. You know, if we kept hold of him, there'd be fans that are upset. Move him, fans were going to be upset. Obviously, you start hearing all the other rumours coming out, like come out from Anthony Slater of The Athletic yesterday that Sacramento had offered the 13th pick in this year's draft for Caruso. No mention if there was a player involved or what, or if it was just 13th pick. And it's kind of like, what would you prefer? The 13th pick in this draft where we don't know what any of the players are going to be, or Josh Giddey, who's got 3 years experience in the league? Yeah, okay, he dropped off a little bit last year, but you go back a year or so, and pretty much every team in the NBA would have probably wanted him, especially if it meant giving up for an expiring contract in the sense of Caruso. Now, obviously, Giddey is on his expiring contract himself. He's going to be due his rookie extension, and that could be as much as 20 to 25 million. It's a real prove it year for him now, and you know that's the part of the deal that I don't like, is the fact that we're back into this situation now with a player who we need to extend, and we just don't really know what they are. So, I mean, on to Giddey himself, I can see, obviously, people are highlighting his flaws, but as I said to Neill, kind of look at what he can do, not what he can't do. Um, we know that he's said to be not a good defender. From what OKC fans are saying, he's a good team defender, but not a very good one-on-one defender. We've got plenty of players like that, and we managed to hide them somehow. Obviously, the defence is going to take a massive hit losing Caruso, but 3-point shooting. we know that Bulls need 3-point shooting. I think he's around about a 33, 32% 3-point shooter on sort of low volume. I reckon he can improve that. And going off of what he said in his arrival presser just tonight, he knows he needs to work on it. And if he can work on it, and if he can get his attempts up to about 4 or 5 a game, and he's hitting 35, 36% on that, I don't think Bulls fans will be that bothered by that. I mean, his career highs, his career high amount of points is 31, career high rebounds is 18, and career high assists is 17. He's got 11 triple doubles in his 3 years in the league. In that 3 years, Bulls have only had 2, one from Vooch, one from Lonzo. So if he can put up 4, 5 triple doubles, a bit of doing everything, and everyone else around him is doing what they need to do, you've got your point guard that this team has been desperately missing since Lonzo Ball. And if you look at last season, he'd have been 9th on Bulls in minutes played per game at 25.1. Obviously, if he was at Bulls, that'd have been a lot higher. Bearing in mind the amount of minutes players like DeMar and Kobe were playing, in rebounds, he'd have been 4th on the list behind Vooch, Drummond, and Javonte Green. And I think, to be honest, you can take Javonte off that list at 3rd, because he only played 10 games, whatever it was. So if you add him into that, he's going to be the 3rd best rebounder on the team, behind our 2 bigs. Now, I imagine a lot of them are like your longer rebounds, without really looking into it too much. But that's something that Bulls needed. And when he rebounds it as well, he turns and he's into the next play straight away. In assists, he'd have been 3rd on the list behind DeMar and Kobe. Like I say, when you think about how many minutes they were playing, and I don't think the numbers were that far apart, I haven't wrote them down, but when you think he only played 25 minutes per game, and like Kobe and DeMar were up near 40 minutes per game, whatever it was, if he plays 30 minutes a night, how many assists is he actually going to get for us? Points wise, he'd have been 5th in points behind DeMar, Zach, Kobe, and Vooch. And again, you could probably take Zach off that list due to the amount of games he played. And the other 3 players, DeMar, Kobe, and Vooch, you kind of needed them to be scoring. So you add Josh Giddey into it. I'm personally quite excited to see how it goes with Josh Giddey. Like I say, I think it's a prove it year for him, trying to get his next deal. And yeah, and just on his conference tonight, obviously he's had his arrival presser. He was asked about obviously a number of things, and you get the kind of typical answers. When asked about what his role is going to, or how he sees his role as a point guard, he said it's all about making other people's life easier, basically, the game easier for other people. So there's the clip of it.
Come in and make sure guys getting easy looks, guys feel confident on the floor. I feel when you, as a point guard, when you can get other people around you going and making them involved in the game, getting them feeling good early, it opens the game up for everybody. So that's kind of how I see myself, just making basketball and the game simple for everybody else and making it easy for my teammates around me.
So obviously, as you can see with that, he knows what he needs to do. He does identify himself as a point guard, even though when you look through his stats, he's spent a lot of time at the 2 and the 3. Another question that he was asked was about what he'd learned from his sort of failure in the playoffs, and he said he knows what he needs to work on now. His 3-point shot. He's going to have a look at what the Bulls have done in the past to see how he fits in defensively. He was obviously asked the question about the off-court issues he had last year. I think it was Casey Johnson that asked him it, and well, here's his answer.
I got one off the court, one on the court. As far as off the court, obviously it's pretty well documented that you had an off-the-court issue last season that was investigated by both Newport Beach Police and the NBA. They both closed their investigations with no further action. I know you probably can't speak about specifics from a legal perspective, but just from a personal perspective, how trying was that for you, and what did you kind of take from that experience that maybe you can move forward with your career?
Yeah, completely understand the question, and I know you've got to ask. It's part of your job, but I'm not going to comment on anything regarding that situation.
Okay.
And I quite like the fact that he dealt with it in that way. I get Casey had to ask him the question. I guess it's kind of clear it up, put it all behind you, fresh start sort of thing. And I get why he didn't answer it, because anything he says can probably be brought back up and blah, blah, blah. And just on that, there's a lot of Bulls fans that are bringing it up, saying they don't want him. He's been cleared of it. It was, she was of age. And look, move on. He's trying to move on. He's got a fresh start now. Just move on from it. It doesn't need to be brought up. Bulls fans should be getting behind him and supporting him, making him feel welcome in Chicago, not trying to force him out before he's even got here. And just one more thing. Obviously, he was asked about what he's looking forward to or how he sees the team, and he gave the media answer of, he only played at the UC once per season, but every time he did, it was packed out. And well, here's his answer.
Yeah, great team. I mean, very talented team. Kind of top to bottom. And they got a lot of guys that can. Obviously Zach DeMar, Kobe was awesome. Really emerged last year. Pat Williams. So they got a lot of, and then the young guys, Dalen. Sorry, they got a lot of talent on this team. And as I said, I'm looking forward to just come in, trying to immerse myself in it, and not take away from anybody, but just help this team continue to grow and get better. But yeah, the impressions, we only play them obviously twice a year, being a Western Conference team, but very competitive team. And one of my favorite things I'm most excited about was playing in United Center in front of the fans. Every time I've been to Chicago to play here, the fans have been unbelievable. It's a packed house every time, regardless of what day of the week it is. So the fans, and I know they're passionate. This club's obviously got a lot of history, but that's one of the things I'm most excited for, is getting to United Center and playing in front of these great fans.
And that sort of, you want to hear that sort of thing. You want to hear him bigging the fans up and stuff like that, because he knows it is a fresh start for him, and if he can have the fans on his side straight away, makes his life a hell of a lot easier. So, obviously he is about to go back to Australia in the next couple of days, I'd have thought, join up with the national team playing the Olympics. Their first game is the 27th of July against Spain. Should be a pretty decent game, I'd have thought. I'll be trying to catch it if I can, and see how he does, basically, to see what flaws he has got I've not really watched a lot of him, to be honest. I don't have the time, but from what I've seen in the highlight package, I'm looking forward to seeing him. So that takes me on to obviously that report of the 13th pick being offered by Sacramento from Anthony Slater. Now these sort of stories come out all the time this time of the season, and I get sick of them, to be honest. It is these sort of reporters, for whether it's the Athletic, Yahoo, whoever it is, they speak to these execs around the league. They've got the sources. I think they basically read other people's reports and just say, right, well, yeah, that's what they've done. Because another one that come out last night was from Jake Fisher at Yahoo, who reported that Bulls have extended the qualifying offer to Patrick Williams, around about 13 million. So he's now a restricted free agent. Is it really news? Did we not kind of expect Bulls to do it? They're now in pole position for negotiations, and if another team offers him a deal, they can match it. I think that's maybe why we haven't seen a Woj bomb or a Shams bomb or Casey Johnson mention anything about it, because I think we kind of already knew. So these sort of reporters, I take what they say with a pinch of salt, to be honest. Yeah, for somebody like me and Neill that do the podcasts and put the content out on Twitter and stuff like that, yeah, they're all right because it's a talking point when there's not a lot else to talk about. But it kind of leads fans into different lanes and stuff like that. And yeah, to me, like I say, pinch of salt. The P. Will thing is not even news. The 13th pick, does it matter? The deal's gone through. Why report it? Where were these people reporting that Caruso was going to OKC in place for Giddey? The last we heard, it was P. Will that was going to OKC. There was no mention of Josh Giddey being shopped around and stuff like that. So that's my take on them sort of people, them sort of reporters. I know they've got a job to do. Great. I just don't really pay much attention to them. Now, one person I do pay attention to is Casey Johnson, and he was on Bulls Talk, and he's wrote a piece about it, about the possibility that Zach ends up staying and is fit with Josh Giddey. Now, over the weekend in private chats, I actually just kind of half jokingly mentioned, if Zach stays, I think he's a good fit alongside Giddey. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, Casey Johnson is dropping this little bit of information. I can confirm Casey Johnson's not in the chat, although we have spoke to him before. But no, seriously, it was only last week that Casey was writing that Bulls have spoke to as many as 15 teams. Didn't you get other reports that Sixers are out on him, Jazz are out on him, Kings want a certain deal to be interested, and blah blah blah. Now, I don't think Casey was actually reporting that Zach is staying. I don't think, it's one of these things where people hear a certain thing and then they spin it, and again, at the end of the day, nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on with other teams around the league in terms of, with Sixers, for example. They've obviously got other targets ahead of Zach. If they don't come off, they're going to turn back to Zach possibly. So, Casey Johnson's not saying Zach LaVine is staying. He's just saying, what if, and he is a good fit alongside Josh Giddey, which, like I say, I've already mentioned in a private chat. I don't want Zach to stay. I'm well and truly now behind a full blow it up, start again, starting with Josh Giddey. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but excited to see what's coming in these next few weeks. And obviously that takes me now on to the draft, which is the first part of it. I'm doing this on Tuesday night. The draft is tomorrow night in Brooklyn, as in Wednesday. For us here in the UK, I believe it's a 1 a.m. start on Thursday morning. Myself and Neill will be up, and we will be looking to drop a pod pretty much straight after it, or as soon after it as we can. Obviously, time-wise, depending. Now, there could be trades happen as the night goes on, involving Zach, involving other players on the roster. Chances are, I personally don't think there will be. We've heard the rumours that Bulls are going to move up. We've heard rumours that they want to move back. I don't know if the Giddey trade affects how they're looking at the draft in any sort of way, affects the sort of players they're looking at. And if you listen to the pod last week when we had Clem on, French Bulls TV, me and Neill did drop 3 players that we'd kind of like to see Bulls take at the 11 pick. And I've asked Neill today to sort of give me one name, and he's gone with Dalton Connect. And I like it. I do like the look of Dalton Connect. I think he could come in and make an instant impact, be pretty much NBA ready. Unfortunately, and the reason why he wasn't on my list is because I don't think he's going to be available at 11. I think he's going to go top 10, around about maybe 6 or 7. So now my choice, the 3 players I mentioned, to be fair, I'd still take all 3. There were Khalil Ware, Devin Carter, and Terrence Shannon Jr. All obviously different positions, bring different things and stuff like that. And the Giddey move has kind of made me lean a bit more towards Khalil Ware. Rim running big, get on the end of his lobs, But Bulls, for me, they've got to take best available, and regardless of position, because we're not in a position to turn down talent or potential talent, which I know probably puts Terrence Shannon Jr. out of it. The only reason I threw him in is because I think he's very much like a Zach LaVine type player, explosive, athletic, good spot-up shooter. And the reason why I'm leaving him there is because I think he'd do well alongside Josh Giddey. If he can find him cut into the rim, find him for a spot-up 3, Terrence Shannon Jr. could be very, very impactful for Bulls. But like I say, my first choice, my number 1 choice that I'm going for, that I'd like to see Bulls take, is Khalil Ware. The way the draft is, I wouldn't be really that disappointed if we don't get him. Just purely because the draft's all over the place, and I don't think I'm going to be particularly disappointed with whoever Bulls decide to pick. Obviously we're not in the second round. The second round I think is 9 p.m. UK time on Thursday. There's a chance we move into it with a draft or whatever, a trade, whatever. More than likely we pick up a couple of extra undrafted players like we have done in the past with Sonogo, Bitim, Justin Lewis. And I can tell you, I will fall in love with that player. I'll watch him in Summer League. I'll think they should be on the main roster. And ultimately, they won't be on any roster, by any Bulls roster, should I say. Whether it's Bulls or Windy City by the end of the season. But that's just me. I always root for the underdog. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Like I say, it's just a pretty quick catch-up episode. Just so that myself and Neill don't have to go over it when the draft talk's gone on. Obviously, do subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave some comments down below. We will get back to them, or I will get back to them. Neill might not. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can find us on all the socials at CRedUK.